All right. Welcome, Lisa, to the Healthy Science podcast. And I'm very, very honored that I can interview you because you have a very special role in the University of Amsterdam. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to share some experiences and perspectives from our roles, me as a PhD student and you from your role and perspective. So I'm looking forward. And maybe you would like to start with tell us a little bit about yourself and that role you're in here at the UvA.
Yes, well, thanks for your invitation. I'm also very honored to be here and to talk in the podcast. So I studied at the UvA, but I studied history and philosophy, so something completely different, because now I work at the Faculty of Economics and Business. So yeah, that's not like the discipline I studied in, but still very interesting. I have a double role here at the faculty, so I am research policy advisor for the School of Economics, so that's one part of the faculty. And I am a PhD coordinator for the whole faculty, so also for the business school. I think this combination is very interesting and very useful for PhDs, because I know all the PhDs and they all know me, which is of course easy for them to approach me. And I also take part in the PhD Council, the Faculty PhD Council. So I talk a lot with PhD students about their experiences and things they see in their work that they want to change or improve. But I also talk with the research direction and with the dean on a regular basis, so I can also propose some new policies or changes regarding to the PhD trajectory we have here. So yes.
So you're really this in-between person.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So I really like the position.
Yeah.
And it's pretty easy for me to propose changes here, because I know about the experiences of PhDs, so I can say, I know that this is a topic that PhDs are talking about or discussing or facing within the faculty. And I see them on a regular basis, so yeah, it's really good.
That's really great, I think, because then you can really be a voice sort of for the PhD students. And if the more upper level, let's say, also listens to you and adapts some sort of policy changes, then that's really, both worlds, you bridge both worlds.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so that's what I really like about my role.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a lot, because it feels like I do two jobs sometimes. But I really like this bridge function I have.
Yeah. So what makes it a lot?
So as a research policy advisor, I'm here for all researchers, so for PhDs, but also for full professors and everything in between.
Oh yeah.
So that's a lot of responsibility sometimes. But I do really feel connected to PhD students. I also am a self-funded PhD candidate as history, so at the Faculty of Humanities. So I know what it feels like to be a PhD candidate. Yeah, so I really feel responsible for them as well. And I really want to help and support them. So that sometimes is a lot. And I know that the problems they face or the bad experiences they have sometimes are because of the other researchers I also work with. So that can be a lot.
Yeah. And is it something, do you see different types of problems in the different stages people are in, or is it also somewhat similar?
I think it's also similar, because, for example, assistant professors, we do have this tenure track we offer them. So all assistant professors here start at the tenure track position, which takes about 6 years, and they have to publish a lot, and there's a lot of pressure on them as well. So I think they face problems PhD face as well. But PhDs are very dependent on their supervisors, and I think that's the difference with other researchers here. So of course there's always this hierarchy between researchers. I think that's very common. That's not only at this faculty.
No.
But for PhDs, they're more dependent on the supervisor and their assessment. So
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And what problems do you counter most often? What do you hear about a lot?
So I'm not the confidential counselor here or the mentor, so they don't approach me directly most of the time. Sometimes they do, but via the PhD council, I of course hear about their problems. I think most of the problems are between the supervisor and the candidate, and it's not that all supervisors are like bad or something, or that they don't know what to do, but I think they do need help with detecting mental health issues or other issues, like more personal things. And sometimes it's hard for PhDs to address problems they have with the supervision, and then they don't know who to go to. So yeah, I think they fear the consequences it might have when they seek help. So that's what I hear a lot. And they have to do a lot of teaching here, and bachelor and master thesis supervision. And
the PhD students.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's about 20% of their appointment here.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah. We have like the highest teaching appointments here at this faculty. And that also, it's a lot of work pressure. But it's also hard for them because they were like a student last year and now they have to evaluate bachelor and master thesis. So yeah, it also gives a lot of work pressure, I think.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
It's really, people get taught to be a teacher and then you suddenly out of the blue have to be one.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah.
So it's one thing to do like a work course or something. I think that's quite nice to do, but to like supervise a student with something like you did last year, that's very hard. And I think they need more training in that before they should do that. So
so you also have some tools in order to how to do that, right?
As
a PhD student. And the communication between supervisor and student is something I hear a lot as well.
Yeah.
And people indeed fear sort of for their position or their future.
Yeah.
I gave a workshop last week, 2 weeks ago, and there was a person who came to me afterwards saying, I'm afraid his supervisor will give me a very, very hard time if I'm able to defend my thesis or not. So really the graduating part so I was quite shocked by that. And I think for a supervisor it's also a bad thing when your student doesn't defend his or her thesis. So I don't see that happening so soon. But the fact that he was worried about that is also worrisome in itself, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Do you hear such extreme things, or are there more like subtle things you hear?
Well, I sometimes do pretty, severe things here as well. So there was once this assistant professor, and I really felt bad for him as well because I know the pressure he must feel because he's
it's not to talk bad about a supervisor. Yeah, let's make that clear.
Yeah, but he puts a lot of publication pressure on his PhD student, and in her case it was very bad, and her other supervisors didn't really react to it. She came to them as well, and they didn't do any like serious things against it. So that was pretty severe. But I think most of the time it's more subtle, and it's not always only the supervisor, but also other senior staff during a seminar or something. I think it's pretty difficult for PhDs to talk in a seminar or to like raise a question because they do think that's a stupid question and that they're not like they're not expert enough to ask a question during a seminar. So
I felt the same. I can recall like when I was in a meeting, even if it was within my own team, I felt the pressure like I have to ask a smart question, right? Yeah, and then you're so busy with what would be a smart or good question, and you're totally missing out on what it's actually about, like information and just learning stuff and connecting. That's what it should be about.
But it doesn't feel like that for PhD candidates.
No.
Like not very often. Yeah, sometimes it of course does. So we have a PhD community here. And 2 PhD candidates did that themselves. So they asked for money, of course, but they build it themselves, and it works very well. And they do like once or every other week a lunch seminar with only PhD candidates, and PhDs can present there if they're like in their first stage or in the final stage of their PhD. and it's only with PhD candidates, and they're very supportive, and that works very well. So that's a seminar that works for PhD candidates.
And it's sort of a prep thing then or
yeah, it's just like you can, if you go to the job market, for example, you can prepare there your
exactly.
Yeah, you can train yourself a bit, but it's also if you just want to present some completely new idea and you want to hear what your peers think about it. And they're very supportive of each other, always positive, and
great.
So that works very well. But that's because it's only with PhD candidates.
Yeah, so it's a safe environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what's missing in academia a lot. Like, there's no safe environment.
No.
There's always like consequences and things, that people worry about.
Yeah.
And that, no one will speak their mind
No.
if you have that kind of environment.
No.
Yeah. But I hear you say PhD council, community.
Yeah.
You're a coordinator, PhD coordinator.
Yeah.
So there is already quite a lot in play.
Yeah.
To support and help out.
Yeah.
So what facilities do you have here at the UvA specifically? I think there are more universities who have these, so people can also check within their own university if they have something
do
do
that. Yeah. So we have indeed a faculty PhD council. There also is a central PhD council.
Mm-hmm.
So every faculty has someone in the central PhD council. We have a community, and it's like almost the same group of people who run that. So the council runs the community, but that's more for social activities and for the seminars.
Yeah.
We also have on a faculty level 2 mentors. We call it a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
So we have one at the School of Economics and one at the Business School. And this person, you can approach him or her if you have questions you don't feel like comfortable asking your supervisor for whatever reason. And at the School of Economics, it's a full professor who retired already, so he doesn't supervise anymore,
Mm-hmm.
but he has a lot of experience with supervising PhDs. So you can approach him with any kind of questions. So that's the mentor. We also have a confidential counselor, but that's for the whole faculty, so not just for PhDs. And PhDs can approach student psychologists as well. Yeah. But that's also not for PhDs specifically. So I think it might be better to have like a PhD psychologist next to the student psychologist, but that's not the case at this point. Yeah,
because I hear it a lot in other universities, right? This PhD psychologist. But you here at the UvA have student psychologists, so they are more broad than, they're also for the bachelor and master students.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why do you think a PhD specific one would help?
Well, I think a PhD candidate fits between a student and an employee. It's a bit of both. So a student psychologist knows like about a part of a PhD trajectory, but not about the whole thing a PhD is, I think. So for example, about the relationship between senior staff and supervisor and PhD, I think it would be good to have a psychologist who knows a lot about this specifically, and not only about like what it means to be a student at the university. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, that is a good point, because you have so many roles as a PhD, and there are so many maybe interests, and like I always say you have to be an octopus, but then with 10 tentacles, right? Like you have to do you have so many roles, and here the teaching part is also a very important part I hear now. So that is hard to go through all on your own without getting the proper tools to do so. Yeah, it would be a good one. But does the faculty listen to you when you say these ideas?
Well, I think the PhD psychologists should be like institutionalized on a central level. Mm-hmm. But when I say things like that, the faculty does listen to it. Yeah. They know that PhDs like have a hard time sometimes. Yeah. It's difficult to be a PhD candidate. They all have been one themselves, like most of the management here. So they do listen if there is something the PhDs bother. Yeah.
Well, that's a start at least.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And what does a PhD coordinator do exactly?
Yeah, so the main thing is that I help with all the administrative things during the PhD trajectory, so the admission at the start, the training and supervision plan, and also at the end the committee, the defense and stuff like that. So very administrative.
Yeah.
But when I started, I founded together with a PhD candidate the council, and now I take also part in the council, and we meet every month. So I discuss things with them, and then I bring it to the research direction. So it's a bit more now than it was when I started at this position. And I also feel like, well, I hope that people feel comfortable approaching me with, well, anything, to make it a bit easier for them, to support them during the whole PhD. Yeah.
Maybe you should become the PhD psychologist.
Yeah, well, not maybe, but the confidential counselor, I sometimes think about it.
Yeah.
Like a specific PhD confidential counselor, maybe I should be that person. Yeah.
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 Yeah. With the confidence counselor, is that also for like specific problems, or is it something very broad that you can just come up to that person with anything?
Yeah, that's very broad. Well, the idea is that you can go to her in this case with anything you want to discuss with her. But she is also a researcher at the faculty. So she's for the whole faculty. It's just one person, and she's a researcher here. So she might be a close colleague of your supervisor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that's what I'm a bit hesitant about.
That's not fully independent. Let's say. Yeah.
No.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's impossible if it's someone who works here. It cannot be completely independent, but probably a bit more than it is now.
Yeah. If we talk about a safe environment and safe space, then this is a very important point, I think. Yeah. Because a lot of people get, I think, tips and like, hey, you should talk to your supervisor about this, or hey, you should go to that person, or hey, and at first I think it's even about, hey, what is there within your university or faculty? What can you make use of?
Yeah.
I think that's also not clear for a lot of people.
No. Definitely.
And then the second thing is indeed, okay, are you daring to go to that person? Is that a safe place to talk about whatever you're going through?
Yeah.
And then the next thing is there action with it, right?
Yeah.
So I was giving a workshop at a PhD retreat, and they said we have a special workshop or talk about what is available at the university to show our PhD students, and I thought that was a very good idea. Does the UvA have something like that?
No, I don't think so. Like not on a central level for all PhDs. So for example, the mentor at the School of Economics approached me a couple of weeks ago because not a lot of PhD candidates have reached out to him yet. So he was a bit worried about it.
Yeah.
So he asked, it might be good if I get a chance to introduce myself to the PhDs. So today I emailed the PhD council asking them if that would be possible, for example, the first seminar in the next year. So they said yes, of course. So they are going to invite both the mentors to introduce themselves. So that's a small thing, of course, which is
but that's good.
Yeah. But it should, that's not the only thing we have. So they should tell a bit more to the PhDs who are there then. But maybe the UvA should do it on like a central level for all PhDs.
Yeah.
Because you can also go to the confidential counselors on all the other faculties. But you have to know that, and you have to know them. Because if you don't want to go to our confidential counselor, it might be good to know that you can also go to any other counselor at UvA.
And that would also help maybe with the safe space kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
That's a good idea. Yeah, and I was wondering, so you hear a lot about the supervisor-student hassles, communications, and I was wondering if you also notice some changes regarding being a first year, second year, third year, fourth year students.
Yeah. Not specifically, I think. But no, I don't think I see the difference myself. No. But as I mentioned, I'm not the
Yeah.
the counselor or something. So yeah, I might miss that, but I don't see a difference between first or third year or fourth year students. No.
Yeah. Yeah, I get mixed stories about that, so that's why I'm curious to hear, because if it's 4 years or however what your contract is, the same problem, then that's I think something goes wrong there.
Yeah.
Then with all the help we have at the universities already,
Yeah.
then if a problem stays a problem, then something's going wrong.
Yeah.
But if it develops, then it's also maybe just part of the process within your PhD, right?
Yeah.
That you just also a bit like have to go through. You don't have to go through it by yourself, and it's good to have tools and everything.
Yeah.
But then it's also part of the process, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I was curious.
Yeah. No, I get it. Now the thing is with the PhD candidates we have at the School of Economics, they almost all come from our research master.
Oh yeah.
So the thesis supervisors during the research master become their PhD supervisors afterwards. So they know their supervisors already.
Yeah.
So that makes it a bit easier. Because and they were their teachers during the research master. So that makes it a bit easier, the communication. Yeah. So that helps, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But sometimes, I know about someone who graduated a couple of years ago that during the process their communication only got worse instead of better.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that also happens, of course.
Yeah. In spite of trying to improve it.
Yeah.
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 But I think, that supervisor was like almost retiring. So that
that might be a process of the supervisor then, like going through something yourself.
And a bit like ausstempel.
Yeah, I don't know what's that in English.
Yeah, me neither, but it's a good expression.
Yeah, it's a very good expression. Yeah. And do you have an idea like what still is missing? So we talked a bit about the safe space and an independent person.
Yeah.
But do you have like thoughts about what is still missing?
Well, I think those things are like reacting to something that doesn't go well, but you want to prevent it, of course.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think it's very helpful to help supervisors in doing better. And it's not like that they're doing not good on purpose, but I think you need to help them as well to detect issues in time and not when it's too late. So I think...
Would they be open to that?
Well, I think like new generation supervisors who graduated not that long ago, I think they are. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, if I look at our younger staff, they're definitely willing to learn. I think they want to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And we have now this, it's called Superb Supervision course for new PhD supervisors. And we ask our new supervisors to do it. So it's obligatory right now. I think that's very good. And I hope that will work. And during this course they talk about these issues as well. So
perfect.
Yeah, I think that's a good step.
Yeah.
I hope it will work.
And so many PhD students ask me like, could you give sort of this workshop to the supervisors? And I would love to, but I don't feel like they are really open to it often, or they just won't listen to me because I'm also...
You're not a supervisor.
I'm not a supervisor, and my PhD ended 1.5 years ago, so it's not that I have all these experiences or something. But I have really clear ideas on that, what would really help. And I would also love to hear back from the supervisors what they struggle with within supporting their PhD students. And I think it's also a matter of, I don't want to make them psychologists, right? Somewhere their responsibility really ends.
Yeah, definitely.
And then you should know where to turn to and guide your PhD student towards someone else who can really help them further.
Yeah.
So
they don't have to do it themselves.
No, exactly.
No, definitely.
I think they feel like, oh God, I have to do even more now, right? That they have such a reaction to it. But I think it's really important to set boundaries in that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they should create a safe space so a PhD will mention it if something
Exactly, that's the
is the
most
problem.
important thing.
Yeah, but then and they need to know where they should like let the PhD go to.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's it. But
Yeah,
I think it
yeah,
would be
exactly,
good.
yeah, yeah.
But it would be good if they're like, know a bit more about this. I think.
Yeah. Well, those courses are already a very good idea to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we should round up a bit.
Yeah.
But I always ask at the end of an interview, like, is there something you would like to get across, or something you find important, or a tip, or whatever? Yeah. To have to let you have the final say.
Yeah. Well, I think it would be good if every PhD candidate looks into everything that a university already does, because I think a lot of universities already do a lot on this topic, but you have to know it before it's too late. So look it up now when you start. Write it down, every person you can approach if something is the matter, and approach people, because people are very willing to listen to you. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Every PhD candidate struggles at some point. So please approach people and do something when it's not too late.
Yeah.
I think,
That's great advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And if you're watching, we're looking at you right now. Feel free to take her up on that advice and go and look for yourself. And if you have any ideas yourself, let them know, because we are very happy to take them with us whenever we are talking to supervisors, management, everything that is helpful. So feel free to do that. And we're going to round up. That was it. Thank you so much, Lisa. I enjoyed it a lot.
Me too.
And just let us know if you have any questions or comments, and I will speak to you next time.